I'm going to be grading every single pick of the 2023 NBA Draft. We of course start off with Victor Wembanyama, who is the greatest draft prospect since LeBron. So we're obviously going to give the Spurs an A+ for this. He seems to have no ceiling, and he's really just an insane player. For the second pick of the draft, we have Brandon Miller from the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets, they kind of prioritized fit over talent, and with someone as talented as Scoot at number 3, this really was just a bad move from the front office, leading for me to give them a B-. Next, we have Scoot Henderson drafted 3rd by the Blazers. The fit with Dame is a bit weird, but I mean, he's just such a good player. He dominated in the G League, and he's NBA ready already. If he just improves his defense a bit, he's a bit undersized, but if he improves his defense, he's sure to be a star in the NBA. For picks 4 and 5, we have the Thompson Twins. I give Amen Thompson a B+, because, I mean, he's a good defender and he's a good player, but his upside doesn't seem to be as high as Asar Thompson, who was picked at 5. I gave him an A- because his upside, he just has superstar potential, and even though he might not grow into that, he at least seems like a better option than Amen Thompson. Next, we have the 6th pick, Anthony Black. He got drafted to the Magic, and I mean, I didn't really love this pick because he cannot shoot, meaning he can't space the floor well, and since he's a small guard, this really isn't great. C+. For the 7th pick in the draft, we have some French guy who played with Victor, and I mean, he's a good player, but obviously the spotlight was a bit bright on him because he played with Victor. His defense isn't great, his three-point shooting isn't great, so I don't love this pick, but he's still a really talented player, so it makes sense that he went 7th. Next, we have Jairus Walker with the 8th pick, and he can guard 1 to 5, and he just has a really high upside. If his three-point shot falls, he already has a pretty good handle for his frame, and he can really be a good player, and I would say the second option on a championship team. For the 9th pick, we have Taylor Hendricks to the Jazz, and he's a versatile defensive forward, which I really like that. He can switch from positions 1 to 5, and he's a great three-point shooter. 3 and D wings are exactly what the NBA wants and needs right now, so I gave this selection an A. Next, Cason Wallace to the Thunder. I thought that this was an interesting pick because they already have Shea, and Shea is he's basically a star at this point, and this guy he's just a perimeter defender who is a primary ball handler. So I don't love this pick. I still gave it a B+ because he's a great player. For the 11th pick, we have Jet Howard to the Magic. I really like this pick because Jet can shoot the ball really well, and since the Magic already selected someone who can't shoot well in this draft, having a good shooter is important. They did exactly this. Next, we have Derek Lively II, picked at number 12 from the Mavericks. He's a tall guy, 7'1", and he can defend the rim really well, but considering that Cam Whitmore was still on the board when they chose this, I don't like this from the Magic. C-. Next, we have Grady Dick at 13, picked by the Raptors. I kind of like this pick. I mean, Dick is a great floor spacer, and he can hit the 3 ball really well. I love Dick. Next, we have one of the worst picks in the draft with Jordan Hawkins. I gave this a D because the Pelicans really fumbled with this pick. I mean, Cam Whitmore was still on the board, and a ton of better prospects were. And I mean, they chose a guy who doesn't really have much of an upside. He might be an immediate contributor, but they're not championship contenders yet. So this pick was a bad one. Next, we have Kobe Buffkin at pick 16. And the Hawks, I mean, they selected him, and they already have a ton of guard play with Trey and DeJounte, so this is just a bad pickup. And once again, you had Cam Whitmore on the board right there and didn't choose him. This is getting ridiculous. The Jazz selected Chiante George at 16, and I mean, he's a really good three-point shooter, and he can run pick and rolls pretty well. So I gave them an A- for this, even though there were better people down the line. I keep mentioning him, but Cam Whitmore still has not been drafted. Next, the Lakers selected this guy, and he's a guard because it looks like the Lakers will need to have some guard play because they can't re-sign everyone. But you know who another guard that hasn't been drafted yet is? Cam Whitmore. 18th overall pick from the Heat really wasn't a good one because they selected this guy out of UCLA and he might fit perfectly into Heat and Heat culture. He's a hard worker, but he's just not a good player. So I gave them a D minus for this. Next, we have the Warriors at 19. I think they finally didn't fumble a draft. This guy fits perfectly into the Warriors system, and seeing him as a Warriors fan is going to be great. Next, at 20 from the Houston Rockets, we have Cam Whitmore. I don't even know how he fell this much. He was projected to be top 7 in just about every single big draft board. You could argue that his injuries set him back, but he's just explosive. He's such a great player. He can hit the 3 ball, he can defend. There's nothing bad about his game. And he dropped to 20. This video is getting too long, so I'm not going to go over the whole draft, but just the interesting picks from here on. Whitehead at 22, he was expected to go at least in the lottery in most drafts. He's just an amazing player, and I don't know why he fell so much. It's like Cam Whitmore, but he's a bit worse, but at the same time, he has that superstar potential, and I wouldn't doubt if he fulfills it. He has all the tools, and he got drafted to a pretty good team, so, I mean, I'll take it. And for the last pick I'm going over, pick 27 from the Hornets, Nick Smith Jr. He fits perfectly around LaMelo, Brandon Miller, and Terry Rozier, so I gave it an A+ just because of fit. He's also NBA ready, and he seems like a potential, not a star, but a very valuable role player. Tell me what you guys think was the best pick in this draft, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.